She said, "I just asked him to put sunscreen on my back. If you're jealous, go home." Then she laughed and joked with him in front of everyone, like I wasn't even there. I stayed quiet, booked a flight home that night, and left without a word. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I'm not here to roast anyone. I'm here to tell a story about how I ignored a lot of small signs, how one sentence on a beach flipped a switch in my head, and how walking away in silence changed everything. Call me Adam. Late 20s when this happened. I had been dating a woman named Mira for almost a year. We met at a friend's dinner. She was funny, gorgeous, and knew everyone in the room. When she laughed, people turned to look. When she talked, they leaned in. I liked that about her at first. It felt like a window to a bigger, brighter world. In the beginning, it was a highlight reel. Brunch on patios, last-minute concerts. Her friends loved her, which meant they were polite to me. She took 1,000,000 pictures and tagged me in 3. It was a running joke. Her caption would say, "Out with my favorite people," and I would be in the 4th slide, off to the side, partially cropped, smiling like a guest at my own birthday. I did not mind, at least not at first. There is a kind of attention that is harmless. You notice it and move on. There is another kind that eats time and oxygen. Mira wanted the second kind. She loved attention the way a runner loves air. At a bar, she would float from conversation to conversation, a hand on an elbow, a quick compliment, a longer laugh than the joke really earned. Texts from random guys she swore were harmless. If I said anything, she would say, "It is just who I am. Relax." And because I was trying to be the easygoing boyfriend, I relaxed. I told myself I was secure, that I did not need to police her. I convinced myself that anything that bothered me was about my own insecurity. I did not want to be that guy. But here's what I learned. Healthy relationships do not ask you to put your dignity in storage. Mine was asking for a storage unit and a monthly payment. It built slowly. A waiter gets a wink for bringing an extra lemon slice. A gym trainer gets a flirty comment. A coworker who has a girlfriend gets a late-night heart emoji on a story. Each one is small enough to excuse. You pick them up like pebbles. You put them in your pocket. After a while, you are carrying a pound of gravel and calling it normal. Then came the trip. Mira had a way of turning any idea into a plan. She saw a video of this beach town with turquoise water and palm trees that looked like they had been combed. Within a week, she had tickets, a hotel, and a spreadsheet with restaurants color-coded by vibe. I paid my share and told myself this would be good for us. New place, no work, reset button. We landed on a Friday. The air hit like warm sugar. The hotel had white curtains that moved even when the windows were closed. We dumped our bags, changed, and went straight to the beach. This is where I tell you about Leo. Leo was the tour guide for a catamaran trip we booked through the hotel desk. He had a salt and sun look, a rope bracelet, an easy smile. The kind of guy who says, "What is up, brother?" And it somehow does not feel forced. He had the job and the teeth to pull it off. We met him at a kiosk on the sand to confirm our trip for the next morning. He checked our names on a clipboard, made a joke about the wind, and said he would see us at 9. It was nothing. Then Mira turned it into something. Not because of him, because of her. She asked him how long he had been doing tours. He said 5 years. She said, "Wow, your arms must be strong." He laughed. She asked if he was from around here. He said yes. She said, "Can you teach me some phrases? I like learning from locals." He laughed again. She touched his arm to make a point that did not need touching. I stood there holding our beach bag like a neutral object. I do not enjoy competing for space with strangers. Still, I told myself, relax. It is small talk. Be cool. It will pass. It did not pass. It rolled over to the next day. On the catamaran, Mira found a seat in front, where the wind hits hardest. Leo made safety announcements and cracked jokes like any good guide. Every time he walked by, she tossed him a line. If he looked at the horizon, she looked at the horizon. If he pointed left, she pointed left. If he asked who wants to jump in first, she thrust her hand up before he finished the sentence. I watched this, like someone watching their phone battery go from 30 to 12 in 3 minutes. After snorkeling, we came back to the beach, sun, drunk, and quiet. We set up under an umbrella. It was a perfect afternoon, the kind that makes you forget the price of anything. Mira pulled a bottle of sunscreen from the bag and put it in my hand. Can you do my back? She asked. I nodded. No problem. While I was rubbing in the lotion, Leo passed by with a stack of towels for another tour. He waved. Mira waved back. Then she called out, joking tone, Hey, maybe you should do this for me. My boyfriend is so slow. I froze for a second. It was a joke. It was also not a joke. That is the thing about jokes like that. They slide through on the pass of humor, but the message is clear. Leo laughed it off and kept walking. Fine, whatever. I finished her back, handed her the bottle, and laid on my towel. I stared at the underside of the umbrella and tried to breathe it out. A few minutes later, I heard Mira say, I missed a spot. I sat up. She had twisted around, and the bottle was in her hand again. Leo had come back. He was passing our chairs on his way to the kiosk. She looked up at him with the wide cartoon eyes I had seen 100 times in bars and brunch lines. Then she said it. I just asked him to put sunscreen on my back. If you are jealous, go home. It was not loud. It did not need to be. It was a sentence designed to do 3 things at once: invite a stranger in, dismiss my feelings, and frame any response I had as insecure. It was a trap that would turn me into the problem if I stepped in it. It was also a mirror. In that mirror, I saw every brushed-off comment and every small boundary I had let slide for months. I did not raise my voice. I did not make a scene. I did not hand her a speech about respect and partnership and public humiliation. I did not ask Leo what he thought he was doing. He looked uncomfortable, to be fair. He mumbled something about having to run more towels and moved away fast. I stood up. I put the sunscreen in the bag. I shook the sand off my towel. I looked at Mira and said, I am going to the room. She rolled her eyes like I had just ruined a TikTok. She said, Do not be dramatic. The afternoon is perfect. I said, I know. Then I walked. When I reached the room, I felt that quiet that follows a decision. No adrenaline, no shaking hands, just a click of something heavy dropping into place. I took a shower. I packed my half of the suitcase. I checked flights on my phone. There was 1 seat left on a flight back that night. I bought it. Then I went back to the beach. Mira was in the water, posing for a selfie with the horizon like it needed her approval. I waved her in. She came out with the slow walk of someone certain the sun would pause until she arrived. What is your problem? She asked. I said, I am heading to the airport. The taxi is in 40 minutes. The room key is at the desk. Enjoy your trip. She blinked. The first time I had seen her surprised in months, then the anger kicked in. Do not be insane, she said. You cannot leave because I am friendly. Stop being controlling. You always do this when people pay attention to me. I have never done this, I said. I am not yelling. I am not calling you names. I am not saying you are a bad person. I am saying I am not doing this. That is all. She tried a different angle. You cannot leave me here, she said. That is cruel. You are not alone, I said. You have a whole beach of people you know by now. You booked this yourself. You can handle it. Have a good time, I turned. She grabbed my arm. Not hard, just enough to say I'm used to getting my way. I looked at her hand. She let go. Back in the room, I put my bag on my shoulder and headed for the elevator. Mira was pacing, talking fast. She said, Fine, go. You will be back in a day. You always overreact, then crawl back. I nodded like someone listening to a weather report about a storm that will miss the city. The taxi came. The driver asked if I was leaving early. I said, Yes. He shrugged. Vacation stories are none of his business, mine too in a way. On the plane, I watched the clouds stack like folded sheets. I felt sad, not heartbroken, not angry, just sad for the time I had spent trying to convince myself that disrespect is a personality quirk. It is not. It is a choice. When I landed, my phone had 8 messages and 3 missed calls. The first message was a paragraph about how immature I was. The second was a voice note with a sigh in the first 2 seconds, which is a talent. The third was a screenshot of her story where she looked amazing at sunset, captioned "Vacation Solo Vibes." The fourth was a text that said, "We need to talk." The fifth said, "I am sorry, but you made me feel unattractive." The sixth said, "I was joking. Why are you punishing me?" The seventh said, "I did not do anything wrong. This is on you." The eighth said, "Please answer." The next morning there were more, some sweet, some spiteful, some confused. It went on like that for a week. Then it slowed to a trickle. Then it stopped. Then it started again, this time with memory posts on her feed. Throwback to the best brunch, and I would be in slide 4, still cropped, still smiling. We did not meet to be civil. We did not do a post-mortem coffee. We did not exchange one last box of hoodies and candles. I sent a short text that said, "I wish you well. Please do not contact me again." She replied with a thumbs up. That was our ending. I learned something about silence. People talk about the power of speaking up, and there is power there. There is also power in leaving without a monologue. It does not punish anyone. It protects you. It keeps your dignity inside your own house. Life moved. Work got busy. Weekends stopped feeling like performances. I started running again. I cooked. I called my sister more. I read a book that did not have a series adaptation. I felt my nervous system smooth out. A few months later, a friend invited me to a small game night. 4 people, simple snacks, quiet music. That is where I met Claire. If Mira was a meteor shower, Claire was a slow sunrise. She did not ask for the room. She did not make me feel like I had to compete with a spotlight. She was warm in a way that did not pull attention toward her. It spread it around. She listened without waiting to talk. Her phone stayed on the table, face down, not as a performance, just as a habit. We did not start with fireworks. We started with walks that went longer than planned and texts that did not make me guess what she meant. When we had our first disagreement, she said, "I hear you, give me a second," and then she came back with a real response. She did not post a screenshot of our dinner with a caption about haters. She posted her cat sleeping in a sunbeam. One day, we went to the same beach town, different hotel, different everything. We rented a small umbrella. I pulled out a bottle of sunscreen. I said, "Want me to get your back?" She laughed and said, "Please, I always miss the shoulder blades." I put the lotion on my hands and felt a tiny ripple of memory pass through, then fade. No claws, no trap. Just a moment. A tour guide walked by. He nodded. We nodded back. The ocean kept being the ocean. It felt so simple that I almost cried from relief. Months later, out of nowhere, I got a message from a number I did not have saved. It was Mira. She wrote, "I have been thinking, and I want to say sorry for that day. I did not understand boundaries the way I do now. I am not asking to get back together. I just wanted to acknowledge it." I read it twice. I typed, "Thank you. I hope you are well." Then I left it there. I do not know if she changed. I hope she did. I hope I did too. Here's the part where people ask, was it really about sunscreen? Number. Sunscreen was the last pebble that broke the pocket. It was months of that same energy. It was the steady corrosion of respect. It was my complicity in calling it harmless. It was my fear of being seen as jealous, which kept me quiet. It was me learning that being calm is not the same as being passive, and that leaving can be an act of self-respect, not a tantrum. If you are listening to this and you feel your stomach drop because you recognize pieces of your own life, here is my advice for whatever it is worth. First, listen to the small discomforts. They are early warning systems. If you have to talk yourself out of your feelings every week, you will eventually talk yourself out of yourself. Second, set the boundary the first time. You do not need a legal brief. You can say, "That made me uncomfortable, please do not do it again." If the response is, "You are insecure," that is an answer. Believe it. Third, do not confuse public charm with private care. The person who can own a room is not automatically the person who can hold your heart. Pay attention to how they treat you when the room is not watching. Fourth, if you need to leave, you can leave quietly. You do not have to win the argument to win your life. Not every exit requires applause. People will say, "You could have stayed and taught her." Maybe, maybe not. I am not a teacher. I am a person. My job is not to sand down someone else's disrespect until it fits. My job is to respect myself enough to step away when I am being diminished. Mira did what Mira does. I did what I needed to do. Claire and I are still together. We fight sometimes. We are not a movie. But when I say a boundary, she treats it like a door frame, not a wall to knock down. When she says one, I try to do the same. Most days are soft. That is what I wanted and did not know how to ask for. I do not think Mira is a villain. I think she was rewarded for a long time for entertaining people, and sometimes the line between entertaining and disrespecting got blurry for her. That is her work to do. It is not mine to supervise. If you are still with me, thanks for listening. If you are on a beach with a bottle of sunscreen and a heavy pocket full of pebbles, I hope you hear this in time. The ocean will keep moving, with or without you. The question is whether you will keep moving with your self-respect intact. I used to think leaving quietly was weak. Now I think it is one of the strongest sounds in the world. It is the sound of a door clicking shut behind you, and the softer sound of your own breath getting steady again. That is my story. Oh, and one last thing. After I got back from that trip, I finally looked through those old photos Mira posted. Slide 4, the one where I was cropped and smiling. I remember the day. It was loud and crowded, and she was in the center. I looked happy in that square. I was not. Now I look happy in rooms that no one posts. I prefer that. Thanks for your time.